Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the blue sun of the Centauri system grow larger on the main screen. His vessel, the UES Harmony, was not built for war. It carried diplomats, scientists, and trade goods between the worlds of the Galactic Council. Jake had been making these trips for 15 years, and they usually went smoothly. "Captain, we're getting close to Centauri Prime," said his pilot, Lieutenant Sam Carter. "They're asking us to dock at Station 7. Jake nodded. "Take us in, Sam. Dr. Kane, are you ready for the trade talks?" Dr. Lisa Kane looked up from her computer. She was a small woman with gray hair who could speak 20 different alien languages. "Ready as always, Captain. Though something feels different this time." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "The Centauri messages sound cold. Usually they're very friendly when we visit." The Harmony docked at the space station above Centauri Prime. The station was huge, with ships from dozens of different worlds coming and going. Jake, Dr. Kane, and 2 other crew members took a shuttle down to the planet's surface. The Centauri were tall, blue-skinned people with 4 arms. They had been trading with humans for over 100 years. Their leader, Ambassador Krell, met them at the landing pad. But instead of his usual warm greeting, Krell barely looked at them. "Humans," Krell said in his deep voice. "Follow me to the meeting room." As they walked through the city, Jake noticed something strange. Groups of Centauri would stop talking when they saw the humans coming. They would stare, then whisper to each other in their own language. Dr. Kane was listening carefully, and Jake could see worry in her eyes. The trade meeting was short and cold. The Centauri agreed to buy human goods, but they offered much less money than usual. When Jake tried to negotiate, Krell just shook his head. "The deal is final," Krell said. "Take it or leave it." After the meeting, Dr. Kane pulled Jake aside. "Captain, I need to tell you something. While we were talking, I heard some Centauri guards speaking in the hallway. They used words that translate to cleansing time and the purge." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you sure?" "Positive. And there's more. I saw ships in the harbor that weren't there last time. Military ships from at least 6 different worlds. All species that have never been allies before." That night, Jake sent an encrypted message to Earth Defense Command. He reported what they had seen and heard. The reply came back within hours, coded in a way that meant extreme secrecy. "Return to Earth immediately. Report to Admiral Collins upon arrival." The trip back to Earth took 3 days. Jake had never seen the solar system so busy with military traffic. Defense platforms that had been dormant for years were now active and scanning every ship that approached. Admiral Pete Collins was waiting for them at Earth Defense Headquarters. He was an older man with steel gray hair and tired eyes. Jake had known him for years, but he had never seen the Admiral look so serious. "Captain Morrison, Dr. Kane, what you discovered on Centauri Prime confirms our worst fears," Collins said. "For the past 6 months, our intelligence people have been tracking unusual activities across Council space." He activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots appeared on hundreds of worlds. 437 species have been holding secret meetings. They're building military alliances, sharing weapons technology, and moving their fleets into attack positions. Dr. Kane leaned forward. "Attack positions for what?" "For us," Collins said quietly. "They call it the human problem. They believe our species is a contaminating influence that must be eliminated." Jake stared at the display. "All of them? Even species we've been friends with for decades? Fear makes people do terrible things, Captain. They're afraid of how fast we learn, how quickly we adapt to new technology. They think if they don't stop us now, we'll eventually take over the galaxy." Collins pressed another button, and the display changed. It now showed human space with arrows pointing toward Earth from every direction. "Our estimates show they'll attack within the next 2 weeks. Over 8,000 ships, Captain. The largest military force in galactic history." Jake felt sick. "What can we do? Our entire fleet has maybe 300 ships." Collins smiled for the first time since they had arrived. "Captain, there are things about human defense that even you don't know. Things we've been working on for 50 years. He led them to an elevator that went deep underground. They descended for what felt like minutes. until finally the doors opened into a massive command center. Hundreds of people worked at computer stations, monitoring displays that showed star systems Jake had never seen before. "Welcome to Deep Command," Collins said. "From here, we coordinate humanity's real defense network." On the main screen, Jake could see 12 different star systems. In each one, there was a world marked with human symbols. The planets looked barren and lifeless, but they were all showing signs of human activity. "Admiral, what are those worlds?" Dr. Kane asked. "Mining colonies," Collins said. "At least that's what we told the Galactic Council. They've been registered as terraforming projects for decades." Jake studied the display more carefully. Something was wrong with the scale. "Sir, those planets, they're huge. Some of them are bigger than Earth." Collins nodded. "Much bigger. And they're not really planets, Captain." Before Jake could ask what he meant, alarms began ringing throughout the command center. A young officer ran up to Collins. "Admiral, our deep space sensors are picking up massive fleet movements. The Coalition is beginning their attack run. Estimated arrival in 72 hours. Collins turned to address the entire command center. "Ladies and gentlemen, activate Protocol 7. Send the wake-up call to all Gaia sites." Across the command center, operators began sending coded messages to the 12 distant worlds. On the main screen, Jake watched as the supposedly lifeless planets began to show new energy signatures. "My God," Dr. Kane whispered. "What have we built out there?" Collins looked at her with grim satisfaction. "Something the galaxy isn't ready for, Doctor. Something they never imagined we could build." As the Coalition fleets moved toward human space, convinced they were about to crush a weak enemy, 12 artificial worlds began to wake up from their long sleep. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been preparing for this day since the moment they first reached the stars. Jake Morrison stood in the command center, watching the displays, and realized that everything was about to change. The peaceful galaxy he had known for 15 years was about to become something else entirely. The war was coming, but humanity was ready. Commander Alex Turner watched his fleet sensors from the bridge of his flagship, the Corvani warship Deadly Strike. 8,000 ships surrounded him in perfect formation, the largest attack force ever assembled in galactic history. Ships from 400 different worlds flew together, their weapons charged and ready. Turner was proud of his planning. He had spent months coordinating this attack, bringing together species that had been enemies for centuries. The fear of human expansion had united them all. "Sir, we're detecting the human fleet ahead," reported his weapons officer. "Only 200 ships. They're already running away." Turner smiled with his sharp teeth. "As expected, begin the attack. Drive them back to their home world." The Coalition fleet moved forward like a giant wave. Human ships fired a few shots, then turned and ran toward Earth. Turner had studied human tactics for years, and this looked exactly like panic. They were scared and disorganized, just as he had predicted. But something bothered him. The human retreat seemed too organized. Their ships were moving in specific patterns, almost like they were following a plan. "Communications officer, get me Admiral Vex on the Therian command ship," Turner ordered. The image of Admiral Vex appeared on the screen. The Therian looked excited, his 6 eyes glowing with anticipation. "Commander Turner, this is easier than we thought," Vex said. "The humans are running like frightened children." "Maybe too easy," Turner replied. "Their retreat patterns look planned. Are you seeing this?" Vex laughed. "You worry too much. Look at the numbers. 8,000 ships against 200. They know they cannot win." Turner ended the call, but his worry remained. He had fought many battles, and desperate enemies usually fought harder, not ran faster. But his concerns were ignored by the other Coalition leaders. They were too excited by their easy victory. On Earth, General Rita Hayes stood in the Deep Command Center, watching the Coalition fleet chase her ships exactly where she wanted them to go. Every human retreat had been planned years ago. Every escape route led the enemy deeper into carefully prepared kill zones. "General, the Coalition is following Route 7 exactly as predicted," reported her tactical officer. "Our ships are leading them past the Jupiter sensor stations." "Good," Hayes said. How long until the Gaia sites are fully active? 12 hours, General. All sites report successful wake-up procedures. Hayes nodded. For 50 years, humanity had planned for this day. Every human ship captain knew the retreat routes by heart. Every defense station had been built to funnel enemy forces into specific areas. The coalition thought they were winning, but they were actually walking into the biggest trap in history. Dr. Ben Parker worked frantically in the engine room of the artificial world called Haven 3. For 30 years, he had lived on this hidden base, maintaining fusion reactors the size of cities. The reactors had been sleeping for decades, but now they were coming to life. Power levels at 60% and rising, Parker called to his team. Gravitational stabilizers are holding steady. Parker's assistant, a young woman named Jenny Adams, monitored the weapon systems. Dr. Parker, the main guns are almost ready. Each one has more firepower than an entire human battle fleet. Remember, we're not just weapons, Parker reminded her. We're humanity's insurance policy. Let's hope we do our job well. Captain Nina Foster flew her small scout ship away from what looked like a mining operation on a distant world. But as she watched, the fake mining equipment began to fold away, revealing massive gun batteries underneath. The barren planet was transforming before her eyes. Control, this is Scout 7, she radioed. Terra Nova is shedding its camouflage. The transformation is incredible. Confirmed, Scout 7, came the reply. All Gaia sites are beginning transformation. Take your position and prepare for combat operations. Foster had been born on Terra Nova, one of thousands of humans who had lived their entire lives on the secret weapon worlds. Her parents had been engineers who gave up life on Earth to build humanity's ultimate defense. Now their sacrifice was about to pay off. Back in the main battle zone, Commander Turner's worry was growing stronger. His sensors were picking up strange energy readings from systems throughout human space. Worlds that had been marked as lifeless mining colonies were suddenly showing massive power signatures. Sir, I'm detecting 12 separate energy sources, his science officer reported. The power levels are off our scales. Turner felt ice in his stomach. Show me the locations. The display showed 12 star systems, each containing what had been thought to be human mining worlds. But the energy reading suggested something much more dangerous. Get me Admiral Vex immediately, Turner ordered. When Vex appeared on screen, Turner could see the Therian was no longer smiling. Vex, are you seeing these energy readings? Turner asked. Yes, and I don't understand them. Those worlds were supposed to be empty mining sites. They're not mining sites, Turner said quietly. We've been tricked. Before Vex could reply, every communication channel in the Coalition fleet received the same message. A human woman's voice spoke calmly. Attention, Coalition forces. This is Lieutenant Kate Williams of the Earth Defense Force. You have 30 minutes to withdraw from human space. This is your only warning. The message included sensor data that made Turner's blood run cold. The 12 mining worlds were not worlds at all. They were artificial constructs, each one larger than most planets, bristling with weapons that made his entire fleet look like toys. All ships emergency retreat, Turner broadcast to his fleet. We are not fighting a desperate defense, we are caught in a trap. But it was too late. The Coalition fleet was deep in human space, surrounded by planets that were actually weapons. 8,000 ships found themselves caught between the human fleet they had been chasing and 12 artificial worlds moving to surround them. Turner realized with growing horror that humanity had been planning this for decades. Every mining world, every terraforming project, every peaceful gesture had been part of an elaborate deception. The galaxy had underestimated humanity in the worst possible way. As weapon systems the size of mountains began powering up across 12 artificial worlds, Turner knew that the Coalition had made a terrible mistake. They had not come to crush a weak enemy. They had walked into the jaws of a trap 50 years in the making. The real war was about to begin, and humanity held all the cards. Captain Ray Mitchell felt the artificial world tremble beneath his feet as Terra Nova came fully online. He had waited 30 years for this moment, living on what everyone thought was a lifeless mining world. Now the truth was revealed, and he was commanding the largest warship ever built. Captain, All weapon systems are active, reported his weapons chief, Lieutenant Bobby Clark. We have full power to all gun batteries. Mitchell looked at the main display, which showed the Coalition fleet trapped between 12 artificial worlds. 8,000 enemy ships that had seemed so powerful now looked tiny compared to what humanity had built in secret. Communications. Open a channel to Admiral Burke on Genesis, Mitchell ordered. The image of Admiral Helen Burke appeared on screen. She was an older woman with gray hair who had spent 40 years overseeing the construction of humanity's planet ships. Behind her, Mitchell could see the massive command center of Genesis, the largest of the 12 artificial worlds. Ray, you ready? Burke asked. Terra Nova is fully operational, Admiral. All crews report ready for combat. Good. Remember, this is not about destruction. This is about sending a message. We want them to surrender, not die. Mitchell nodded. He understood the plan. Humanity could destroy the entire Coalition fleet in minutes, but that would make them look like monsters. Instead, they would demonstrate their power in a way that left no doubt about the outcome. Engineer Carlos Diaz worked at his station aboard Genesis, coordinating the 12 planet ships. Each artificial world was connected to the others through quantum communication links, allowing them to work together like parts of a single massive machine. Admiral Burke, all sites report ready, Diaz announced. We have perfect coordination between all 12 units. Burke studied the tactical display. The Coalition fleet was bunched together, trying to retreat, but blocked by the planet ships moving to surround them. It was exactly what the planners had hoped for 50 years ago. Begin Operation Revealer, Burke ordered. Show them what we can do. Terra Nova fired first. A beam of energy larger than most battleships cut through space, striking a Coalition cruiser. But instead of destroying the ship, the beam carefully disabled its engines and weapons, leaving the crew alive but helpless. One by one, the other planet ships joined in. Weapons the size of skyscrapers fired with precision that shocked the Coalition forces. Every shot was perfectly aimed to disable rather than destroy. Ships that could level cities were being used like surgical tools. Commander Turner watched in horror as his fleet was systematically torn apart. The Coalition's most powerful warships were being swatted aside like insects. Energy beams that could crack moons were carefully removing weapons and engines from his ships. Sir, we've lost over half our fleet capability in the first 5 minutes, his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice. But our casualty reports are surprisingly low. Turner realized what the humans were doing. They were not trying to kill the Coalition forces. They were demonstrating that they could destroy everyone if they wanted to, but were choosing mercy instead. All ships cease fire and surrender, Turner broadcast. We cannot win this battle. But not all Coalition commanders were as smart as Turner. Admiral Vex and several others refused to give up, ordering their remaining ships to attack the planet ships. Directly, Captain Steve Rogers coordinated the defense of Terra Nova as Coalition fighters swarmed toward his artificial world. The enemy ships were fast and determined, but they were attacking something the size of a planet. Defensive systems online, Rogers reported, initiating shield wall. Energy barriers larger than continents flickered to life around Terra Nova. The Coalition fighters struck the shields and simply bounced off, their weapons useless against defenses designed to stop planet-killing attacks. Sir, enemy fighters are trying to land on our surface, reported his security chief. Rogers almost laughed. Let them try. They'll find out how big we really are. The Coalition fighters that managed to land found themselves on what seemed like an endless metal landscape. The surface of Terra Nova stretched beyond the horizon in every direction. Cocky. Turrets the size of buildings rose from the artificial terrain, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Dr. Amy Watson treated wounded Coalition soldiers in the medical bay of Genesis. Most of them were in shock, unable to understand what had happened to them. They had attacked what they thought was a mining world, only to find themselves inside an artificial planet. Doctor, this Zentari soldier keeps asking where he is, reported Nurse Julie Brown. Watson looked at the blue-skinned alien who was staring around the medical bay with wide eyes. The room was large enough to hold 1,000 patients with medical equipment more advanced than anything in council space. "Tell him he's inside Genesis," Watson said gently. "Tell him he's safe." The Zentari soldier began crying when he learned he was inside an artificial world. Many of the Coalition prisoners had the same reaction when they realized the scale of what humanity had built. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kate Williams continued broadcasting to the Coalition fleet. Her voice was calm and professional, but her message was terrifying. "Coalition forces, you are completely surrounded. Your weapons cannot harm our defenses, your ships cannot escape our gravity fields. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated well." The broadcasts included detailed scans of the planet ships, showing their true size and power. Coalition commanders who saw the data realized they were not fighting ships at all. They were fighting artificial worlds designed for war. Admiral Burke watched from Genesis as more and more Coalition ships stopped fighting and surrendered. The demonstration was working exactly as planned. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from 70% of the enemy fleet," reported her communications officer. "Accept their surrenders," Burke ordered. "Begin rescue operations for disabled ships." As the battle ended, the galaxy began to understand what had happened. Humanity had not just won a military victory. They had revealed that they possessed technology generations ahead of anyone else. The species that everyone thought was peaceful and weak had been secretly building the most powerful weapons in galactic history. The 12 planet ships hung in space like metal moons, their weapon systems still glowing with unused power. 8,000 Coalition ships sat helpless around them, their crews beginning to understand that they had not attacked Earth at all. They had attacked the Guardians of Earth, and those Guardians were far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. The galaxy would never be the same. Captain Steve Rogers stood in the command center of Terra Nova, watching thousands of Coalition ships floating helplessly in space around his artificial world. 3 days had passed since the battle ended, but the shock was still fresh on everyone's faces. "Sir, we're receiving another surrender transmission," reported his communications officer. "This time from the Vegan Empire. They're offering to join our side." Rogers shook his head. "Tell them the same thing we told the others. The war is over. Everyone goes home, no one joins anyone." The victory had been so complete that species across the galaxy were panicking. Many thought humanity would now conquer everyone. They were offering to surrender worlds that had never been attacked. Dr. Amy Watson walked through the prisoner sections of Genesis, checking on the Coalition soldiers. Most were physically fine, but their minds were struggling to accept what they had seen. "Doctor, the Corvani commander wants to speak with you again," said Nurse Julie Brown. Watson found Commander Turner sitting in his cell, staring at the wall. He had not eaten much in 3 days, and barely slept. Like many Coalition officers, he was having trouble dealing with the truth. "Commander, you need to eat something," Watson said gently. Turner looked at her with tired eyes. "How long have you been planning this? How long have humans been building these things?" 50 years, Watson answered honestly. "Since we first joined the Galactic Council." Turner put his head in his hands. 50 years. We never had a chance, did we? All this time you could have conquered the entire galaxy. But we didn't, Watson pointed out. We could have, but we chose not to. That should tell you something about us. Turner laughed bitterly. It tells me we were fools. We thought we were the predators, but we were just prey that hadn't been hunted. Yet. Meanwhile, General Frank Lopez prepared his ground forces for a different kind of mission. Instead of invading enemy worlds, his soldiers were being sent to help repair the coalition ships that had been damaged in the battle. Remember, these people were our enemies 3 days ago, Lopez told his troops. But now they're just scared beings who made a mistake. Treat them with respect. His soldiers boarded the disabled coalition ships, carrying repair equipment and medical supplies. Many of the alien crews were terrified when they saw human soldiers coming aboard. They expected to be killed or enslaved. Instead, the humans fixed their life support systems and treated their wounded. Commander Betty Clark sat in her intelligence office, reading reports from across the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory was spreading faster than they had expected, and the reactions were getting stronger. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from the outer rim sectors," her assistant reported. 12 different species have declared themselves human protectorates without being asked. Clark sighed. "And the council?" "Emergency session has been going on for 48 hours straight. Half the members want to make humanity the official galaxy protectors. The other half want to surrender immediately." "What about the species that didn't join the coalition? They're all requesting immediate trade agreements with Earth. Very favorable terms for us." Clark understood what was happening. Fear was making the galaxy reorganize itself around humanity. Species that had been independent for thousands of years were now desperate for human protection or approval. Dr. Sarah Miller studied the psychological reports coming in from across human space. As a xenopsychologist, she had predicted some of these reactions, but the scale was bigger than expected. "The Zentari are showing classic submission behaviors," she reported to Admiral Burke. "Their entire government resigned and asked us to appoint new leaders." Burke looked tired. "What about the Therians?" "Opposite reaction. They've locked down their entire star system and won't talk to anyone. Pure terror response." "And the neutral species?" "Mixed reactions. Some are trying to copy our technology. Others are offering us anything we want if we promise not to attack them." Burke rubbed her temples. "This isn't what we wanted. We just wanted to be left alone." The 12 planet ships had become symbols of human power that scared the galaxy more than any army could. News reports showed the artificial worlds from every angle, their massive size making even the largest space stations look tiny. Captain Joe Davis led a diplomatic mission to the Rigel system, trying to calm down the local government. The Rigelians had been human allies for decades, but now they were acting like frightened children. "Ambassador Keth, you don't need to give us your defense codes," Davis explained patiently. "We're not here to take over your system." The tall, thin Rigelian shook his head frantically. "But you could take over whenever you wanted. Those planet ships of your own, they're bigger than our moons." "Yes, but we won't use them against you. We built them to defend ourselves, not to attack others." "How do we know you won't change your minds? How do we know you won't decide we're a threat someday?" Davis realized the real problem. It wasn't just about the planet ships. It was about trust. For 2 centuries, other species had thought they understood humanity. Now they knew they had been completely wrong. Back on Terra Nova, Captain Rogers received a transmission that made him laugh despite everything. It was from a small mining colony in the Beta sector. "Human planet ship Terra Nova, this is mining. Station 7. We want to formally surrender to your empire. Please don't destroy us." Rogers opened a channel back to them. "Mining Station 7, this is Captain Rogers. We don't have an empire and we're not going to destroy you. Just keep mining and have a nice day." There was a long pause before the reply came. Are you sure? Because we heard you have 12 planet ships and could conquer the galaxy." "We could," Rogers admitted, "but we won't. We just want to be left alone." Another pause. "This is very confusing, Captain. What kind of powerful species doesn't want to conquer anyone?" Rogers smiled. "The humankind, apparently." As reports continued to come in from across the galaxy, one thing became clear. Humanity's demonstration of power had worked too well. Instead of just stopping the coalition attack, they had terrified everyone into submission. The galaxy was reorganizing itself around the assumption that humanity was now in charge, even though humans kept insisting they didn't want to be in charge of anything except their own worlds. Admiral Burke called a meeting of all 12 planet ship commanders. They had won the war, but now they faced a different problem. How do you convince an entire galaxy that you don't want to rule it when you clearly have the power to do so? The answer would determine what kind of galaxy their children would inherit. 6 months after the Coalition War ended, President Dan Cooper stood before the rebuilt Galactic Council on the space station above Earth. Representatives from 800 species filled the Great Hall, but the atmosphere was very different from before the war. "Fellow council members," Cooper began, "we are here to discuss the new galaxy we all must live in together." In the front row sat Commander Turner, now representing the former coalition species. His people had asked him to speak for them because he understood humans better than most. Behind him sat delegates from species that had never fought humans but were still afraid of them. "President Cooper," said Ambassador Keth of the Rigelians, "many of our worlds want to know your intentions. Will humanity expand beyond your current territory?" Cooper shook his head. "We have no plans for expansion. We never wanted to rule anyone else. We just wanted to be safe." "But you could rule us all," said a delegate from the Vegan Empire. "Your planet ships could conquer any world in days." "Yes, we could," Cooper admitted. "But power without wisdom is dangerous. We learned that lesson long ago on our own world." Admiral Jack Stone stood at his post on Terra Nova, now serving as the mobile defense platform for the Sol system. His job had changed from preparing for war to keeping the peace. Every week he received requests from species asking for human protection from their neighbors. "Sir, the Centauri Republic is requesting a protection treaty," reported his aide. "They're worried about Andromedan pirates," Stone sighed. "Tell them the same thing we tell everyone. We'll help if they're actually attacked, but we won't get involved in local politics." This had become humanity's new role in the galaxy. They were reluctant peacekeepers, using their overwhelming power to stop wars before they started. The mere presence of the planet ships in a system was enough to make aggressive species think twice. Dr. Sarah Miller published her study on the galactic psychological changes 6 months after the war. Her findings showed how deeply humanity's revelation had affected every species. The discovery that humans had been hiding planet-sized weapons for 50 years has fundamentally changed how species view each other. Miller wrote, "If humans could hide such massive projects, what else might other species be hiding?" The result was a new age of transparency in the galaxy. Species that had once kept military secrets now shared information openly, afraid that hidden weapons programs might trigger another human-style revelation. Captain Joe Davis continued his diplomatic missions, but now his job was more about psychology than politics. He spent most of his time convincing nervous species that humanity really didn't want to conquer them. "Ambassador Vex, you've asked me the same question 12 times, Davis said patiently to the Therian leader. "No, we are not planning to invade your system. No, we don't want your resources. No, we don't need more territory." Vex, the former coalition admiral, looked confused. "But why not? You have the power. Every species in history with this much power has used it to expand. Maybe that's why they all eventually fell," Davis replied. "Power that grows too fast becomes impossible to control." The most interesting change came from the coalition species themselves. Instead of hating humanity for defeating them, many had become fascinated by human culture and technology. They wanted to understand how humans had planned so far ahead and kept such massive secrets. Commander Turner had become something of a celebrity among his own people. His tactical analysis of the war was studied in military academies across the galaxy. He often spoke about the lessons learned from humanity's strategy. "The humans taught us that real strength comes from preparation, not just weapons," Turner told a group of young Corvani officers. "They spent 50 years building defenses while we spent 50 years building attack fleets. When the crisis came, they were ready, and we were not." Meanwhile, construction had begun on a 13th planet ship. The project was not secret this time. Humanity had learned that hidden weapons made everyone nervous, while visible weapons actually made people feel safer. Captain Ray Mitchell, now commanding the construction efforts, worked with engineers from dozens of different species. The new planet ship was being built as a joint project, with other species contributing technology and resources. "Captain, the Centauri delegation wants to add their shield technology to the design," reported engineer Carlos Diaz. "Approved," Mitchell said. "The more species involved, the more everyone trusts the project." President Cooper returned to Earth after the council meeting, feeling the weight of humanity's new role in the galaxy. His advisor, Secretary of State Maria Santos, briefed him on the latest developments. "Mr. President, we've received formal requests from 47 species asking us to mediate their border disputes," Santos reported. Cooper looked out the window at the space traffic around Earth. Ships from hundreds of worlds came and went daily, many carrying diplomats seeking human advice or merchants hoping for favorable trade deals. "How did we become the galaxy's counselors?" Cooper asked. "By being the only species strong enough to enforce peace but wise enough not to want to," Santos replied. The 12 planet ships continued their patrols throughout Council space, no longer hidden but serving as visible reminders of humanity's power and restraint. Their presence had ended 3 major wars and prevented dozens of smaller conflicts from starting. Dr. Amy Watson, now working on a medical exchange program, treated patients from across the galaxy aboard Genesis. The artificial world had become a symbol of human technology used for peaceful purposes. "Doctor, the Rigelian patient in room 7 wants to know if he can tour the ship," Nurse Julie Brown reported. "Of course," Watson said. "Just avoid the weapon decks. Those still make people nervous." As the first year after the war ended, humanity had settled into their role as reluctant guardians of galactic peace. They had proven that a species could have unlimited power without becoming corrupted by it. The galaxy was safer, more peaceful, and more cooperative than it had been in centuries. Species worked together instead of plotting against each other, knowing that humanity would step in if conflicts got out of hand. And in the deep construction yards around Jupiter, work continued on planet ship number 13, a visible reminder that humanity's preparations never stopped. They had learned that peace required constant vigilance, and they were determined to be ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's power. But more importantly, it had learned to trust humanity's wisdom.